All right, we are still about 30 seconds now to the technical end of business. Well, I don't know if the courts follow that rule or not, but we are still waiting for a decision in the DOJ versus Idaho court battle over the state's abortion trigger laws. This trigger law is set to go into effect tomorrow, well, at midnight tonight, which would be technically tomorrow. And under that law, almost all abortions are going to be outlawed in the state of Idaho. An exception, though, to save the life of the mother, exceptions for cases of rape, incest. Those things have to be reported to law enforcement, by the way. So Joe Paris has been waiting just as long as everybody else has across, well, basically the entire state of Idaho. Anybody who has any sort of media pass or just an interest in this has been waiting to see what Judge Windmill is going to say about this case. So what do we know yet?
Well, we don't know a lot, and I know that's kind of a theme sometimes around here is the unknowns. But yeah, I mean, Judge Windmill said in his courtroom on Monday that he wanted to get a decision out before Thursday when the law goes into effect. Judge Windmill even saying on Monday, after the hearing, or during the hearing, I should say, that he was hoping to maybe get it out on Tuesday. Here at 5 o'clock, though, on Wednesday, we still don't have an official order from federal court. So, Brian, in terms of the law being paused or a section of the law being paused, we just don't know right now. So we're kind of just waiting.
Those are the options, right? Those are the possible outcomes that he is deciding on.
Right, and I think there's a little bit of a misconception out there that the Department of Justice is trying to get the entire law paused. The specific part of the law that we're talking here is about EMTALA, which is a federal law that guarantees treatment for patients that are in a hospital, that they have Medicare funding. There's a discrepancy between the federal law and the state law in terms of at what point can you do an abortion under EMTALA. If a patient needs to be stabilized, an abortion is a medical procedure. They can do that. Under state law, though, Brian, that's just not part of the law. There's an exception to save the life of the mother, which is a higher bar, though, than EMTALA.
Okay, so last Friday, the criminal aspect of the 6-week abortion ban in Idaho went into effect. So that is in play right now. But there's been talk about whether or not this decision that we're expecting today, we assume, could have an impact on that. Is that something that is possible?
No, and it's unclear right now. What we do understand and what we know from the intent of the legislation is that the trigger law was meant to be a more narrow focus on when abortions can be done. So the trigger law, which is the one we're talking about that'll start tomorrow, that was meant to kind of overwrite the 6-week ban. So we're not exactly sure how this will play out. If a part of the law is paused, will maybe the 6-week partially be on the books? Maybe the trigger law will be fully on the books with an exception. And the legal community, there's not a 100% agreement on how this will play out. So it really depends on what the judge says and kind of what the legal experts interpret.
Okay, we were talking earlier that part of this delay could be caused by some paperwork that was filed on behalf of the state based on what happened in Texas. There was a judge there that actually ruled in favor of the Texas law, which was what Idaho's law was based on. But there's a little bit of difference there, right?
Yeah, so the Texas law, very quickly here, the Texas law has a specific phrase and a specific section in it that says, in the case of an ectopic pregnancy, you can do an abortion. Idaho's law is not that specific, and it just says pregnancy. It doesn't say ectopic or whatever. It just says pregnancy. So the difference between Idaho and Texas there is that Texas's law was written differently in a specific way. So the EMTALA case, it's not the same case that you're making in Texas as you're making in Idaho. However, the state of Idaho, the Deputy Attorney General, they did file a motion in court today that said, hey, we saw this decision in Texas. We want this to be considered as a part of the final judgment. So that might be why we're seeing a delay here. And to be very clear, there's no hard deadline in terms of when Judge Windmill needs to put out his deadline. He said in court that he wanted to get it out on Wednesday before Thursday. If something happened, though, and it complicated his decision, or maybe he had to rewrite something, I mean, the clock keeps tipping. It's not like he has a deadline to meet at 5 o'clock or midnight. The decision could come out next week if that's when it comes out.
That's a possibility, but that law goes into effect at midnight tonight for tomorrow. And if it happens, the decision from Judge Windmill happens between now and 5:26, we'll let you know about it.
All right.
Thank you very much, Joe.